Patrice Leonwuka, senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum and Newsmax contributor. So, Patrice, what do you think? Will there be or won't there be? Will there be witnesses at the Senate trial, or will it go quickly and go away?
John, good to see you. I think there are going to be witnesses.
Really?
I think you have three particular, I do. I think you have three particular senators, Lisa Murkowski and particularly Susan Collins, who are in very tight races back home. And this is going to be for them a way to say, well, you know what? We want to give the president an opportunity to defend himself, to present his case, and to call those witnesses that Democrats in the House never called. Witnesses that I think a lot of Americans might be interested in hearing, including Hunter and Joe Biden. So, you know, I do think that it's very possible that this could happen. But, John, can I just say, Nancy Pelosi gambled on holding these impeachment articles hostage for 1 month, and she lost big on this concession about witnesses. This wasn't even supposed to be an issue at all based on her strategy, and it was a flop for her.
So let me ask you this, Patrice. So one of the working theories, and I think it holds a lot of water, is Pelosi held this so that she could take Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren off the campaign playing field during Iowa, New Hampshire, et cetera. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And in a moment, we're going to get into the blowback if she does that to Bernie Sanders and it happens to him again like Hillary did to him in 2016. All right. But let's say she did that. What's to stop Mitch McConnell from saying, okay, Nancy, I'll play your game again. I'll call your bluff again. I'm now going to delay this trial until after those caucuses to put those senators back on the playing field. And by the way, Patrice, McConnell does it very publicly to say, hey, look, I'm not going to let Nancy rig the presidential election in favor of Joe Biden. We're going to get our witnesses. Joe and Hunter Biden are going to be among them. And I'm going to make sure that Senators Warren and Sanders are at those caucuses, at those primaries. I think that would be a big loss for Pelosi if McConnell played it that way.
Well, that would be gambit number 2 that she blew, and so, it would be fascinating if he did decide to delay them because you know what? American people may say, well, wait a minute. Actually, Senator McConnell could very well delay it longer since Nancy Pelosi delayed for nearly 1 month the articles of impeachment to begin with. And let's not forget the reason why there seemed to have been this rush, this push to get through the House inquiry and hearings was because there was fear of interruption by President Trump in the 2020 elections. That rush suddenly evaporated over the holiday period. So at this point, there really is there's no pushback that I think Nancy Pelosi could say to Senator McConnell to say no. You have to plug ahead with this trial. So yeah, it very well could be the case. Now, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren would certainly be the big winners of being able to stay on the campaign trail, but those two already have their own issues that they're working at, as we've seen today.
Let me ask you, though, Patrice, what is the blowback? If they do this, if Nancy Pelosi does this, the Republicans have a built-in narrative. Well, look at what Nancy Pelosi's doing. She's doing to Bernie exactly what Hillary did to Bernie in 2016, using the power and weight of the Democratic establishment to sideline the outsider, to sideline Bernie, even though he's a sitting senator, he's still perceived as an outsider in presidential politics. Hey, Bernie bros, are you really going to let Pelosi do again to Bernie what Hillary did in 2016? I think Bernie Sanders has passionate, organic support. I think the Democrats have a big problem if Republicans play this right.
Well, certainly they're looking at the establishment saying you can't ignore us now. The fact that reporters are actually taking Bernie Sanders seriously and taking his campaign, the consistency of his polling very seriously. So, yeah, there would be blowback if I think there's a recognition on the part of establishment Democrats that you can't just change the rules to favor, Joe Biden or your favored candidate. You actually have to do the right thing this time around. And you know what? The consistent Bernie supporter, the consistent Bernie support really makes up a very strong primary voting bloc. And so if they don't want those folks to sit out the primaries or even worse, the election, I think they have to, the establishment will have to toe the line.
See, I think this is where the Republican Party is missing some messaging, some strategic messaging. I believe Bernie supporters are much like Trump supporters in their passion for their guy, right? And I think if the Republican Party is smart enough to plant stories in the right places about the establishment DNC working against Bernie Sanders, the Democratic deep state working to keep Bernie Sanders from being the nominee and trying to steal the votes of these people, I think we could suppress a lot of Democratic votes doing that. I'm going to come out and say it.
You know what, John,
we want to suppress them. We want to win. I'm going to be honest about it.
I'm going to leave that to you, the voter. I'm going to leave that to you. I am going to say, though, that, those who see this as an opportunity, I think, can run with it. But to be fair, I'm tired, honestly, of the establishment trying to rig the process and actually not creating a fair process. And I think that is why President Trump got so much support in the past and why those Bernie supporters continue to be with him, and frankly, why we've got Hawaii's representative, Tulsi Gabbard, why she is still in the race. Because I think there are also people who see how Tulsi stood up against the Clinton machine and the Clinton and the Democratic establishment and said, no, wrong is wrong, and I'm calling it out. So there is still a lot of anti-establishment sentiment in the United States today.
There is, and Cory Booker jumped out. I honestly did not realize he was still in the race, Patrice. I'm not even saying that to be funny. I thought he dropped out weeks ago.
Yeah.
Apparently it was big news.
With Julian Castro.
Yeah. It's like, this was big news. I really thought these guys were like, I don't know, having a burger somewhere together. They had dropped out and they were commiserating. Patrice Lee Onwuka, always good to see you, my friend. Thanks.
Good to see you, John.